Hi, I am Gladys John Patalinghug from University of Cebu Labu-Labu in Mindanao. I will be discussing today about the miscellaneous provisions and harbor regulations related of customs under the CMO 22-2010 or the Revised Customs Port Operations Manual. And yes, I am using a text-to-speech for this presentation. Let's begin with the miscellaneous provisions. Section 20. Certificate for quarantined cargo. When cargo manifested for any port in the Philippines is retained on board the importing vessel by order of the quarantine officer or any other officer authorized to issue such order, the customs inspector on board after verifying said cargo, shall make a certificate of constructive lading as to the bill of lading. Section 21. Use of boarding watercraft. The customs senior boarding officer shall not permit anyone to go with the customs boarding watercraft upon departure from the pier except customs inspectors and customs guards duly assigned to vessels to be boarded. Customs inspectors and customs guards assigned by the Chief, Base Service Section or its equivalent office to substitute for absent personnel, and those especially granted in writing by the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division or its equivalent office may be given the privilege to use the boarding watercraft. Section 22. Baggage Declaration Entry. Baggage declaration, properly accomplished by incoming passengers, shall be presented to the customs inspector on board or to customs examiner or appraiser upon boarding of the vessel. It is required that an itemized enumeration thereon of the articles obtained abroad showing quantity and the corresponding invoice price should be made in THB baggage declarations. Articles, wares, goods, merchandise and any other cargo acquired abroad not so declared shall be liable to seizure and subject to the penalties of the customs law. Section 23. Vessel clearing for foreign ports applying. The customs inspector on board of a vessel clearing for foreign ports and applying for bunkers shall require the master thereof to transmit together with his application the usual affidavit, containing the following. 1. Name and nationality of vessel. 2. Amount of fuel oil available on board for its 9 repulsion at time of entry. 3. Vessel's daily consumption of oil at sea. 4. Vessel's daily consumption of oil in port. 5. Port or ports of call during the voyage and duration of vessel's stay at each port and 6. The amount of bunkers applied for. Section 24. Unloading of cargo by distressed vessel. A distressed vessel in port desiring to unload cargo for the duration of the vessel's sojourn thereat may be issued a permit to discharge their cargo upon written request of the master or agent, approved by the collector of customs under such terms and conditions he may deem proper. If the cargoes discharged will be cleared or entered in the port where they are discharged, the unloading of this class of cargo shall be subject to the same rules and regulations prescribed for cargoes destined or the port. Section 25. Ship's mail. Ship's mail shall be examined as they are being taken from the ship, and all mails addressed to persons other than the agents of the vessel shall be delivered to the mail clerk. Any dutiable articles or merchandise, other than mail, found in the mail bags shall be subject to duties and taxes or seizures. Section 26. Laborers and ship's laundry. All stevedores, laborers and other persons of similar status shall be thoroughly searched by, or under the immediate supervision of, the customs inspector on board, upon their leaving the vessel. And such person found with pilfered articles or those not authorized for discharge in his person shall be arrested. Section 27. Seizures. The customs inspector or customs guard making seizure shall deliver to the owner or the claimant, and if unclaimed, to the master of the vessel, a receipt describing the articles seized. He shall forward immediately the articles seized together with the seizure report and transfer note to the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office. Section 28. Arrests. Upon searching a vessel or any person on board thereof, the customs inspector or customs guard on board is authorized beyond required to search, arrest and even detain, conformably with law, any performed found committing act or acts contrary to law. When a person is apprehended under such circumstances, the customs inspector on board shall conduct an informal investigation, after termination whereof the person arrested together with the evidence shall be turned over to the Enforcement and Security Service, ESS, for appropriate action. A report in detail, showing the name of the person arrested, the reason for the arrest, and action taken, shall be submitted without delay, to the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office. Section 29. Small boats alongside vessels. Small boats, authorized by the PPA to engage in ferry services, may be permitted to come alongside the vessel. A customs guard shall be stationed at all times while a small boat, launch or any watercraft is alongside, and it shall be thoroughly searched before being permitted to depart. Section 30. Customs guards for vessels lying alongside. A customs guard shall be detailed by the customs inspector on board of a vessel when another vessel is lying alongside, whose duty shall be to see that no contraband articles or merchandise is passed from one vessel to the other. This duty shall be arranged in rotation, so that the vessel will be under continuous surveillance until its departure. Section 31. Heaving anchor and sail. Upon receipt of a notice of clearance, the customs inspector on board shall allow the vessel to heave anchor and sail. But if, for any reason, the ship does not leave and remains in port for more than 48 hours after the time of departure indicated in the clearance, the master of agents shall be required to secure from the customs clearance officer an extension of time for departure, without which the original clearance shall be of no force or effect. Section 32. Repair of vessel equipment. Upon the filing of a bond/underguard, Sec. 105 of TH Tariff and Customs Code of the Philippines, as amended, guaranteeing their re-exportation, and approved by the Collector of Customs, the landing of sails, casks, chronometers and other portions of the vessel's equipment for the purpose of having them repaired shall be permitted. The customs inspector shall describe the articles or equipment so released in sufficient detail to enable easy and ready identification upon their return. Section 33. Conversion of vessel status. Subsection A. From foreign to coastwise. Vessels of foreign status may be converted to coastwise status after the following requirements are fully complied with and submitted to the Collector of Customs through the Customs Clearance Officer as prerequisite to the issuance of clearance. Such vessel shall be subject to continuous underguarding until final clearance is issued by the Office of the Deputy Collector for Operations. Subsection B. From coastwise to foreign. Vessels of coastwise status may be converted to a foreign status subject to the following requirements. 1. Certification of conversion issued by the Maritime Industry Authority. 2. Duly processed export declarations/permits. Section 34. Letters to Collector. The Customs Senior Boarding Officer shall collect all letters in the vessel's possession addressed to the Collector of Customs, and transmit them without delay to the Customs House. Section 35. Refuse and garbage. No refuse, garbage and the like shall be thrown or jettisoned inside any harbor, more especially while the ship is alongside piers. All damaged and rotten cargoes shall be disposed of upon arrangement and permission of the Collector of Customs and at the area designated by said official or duly authorized representative after consultation with the Philippine Coast Guard and/or the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, DNR. Master of vessels desiring to load or discharge ballast shall first obtain permission from the Collector of Customs or Surveyor of the port and shall obey the instruction given them by the harbor master as to where the ballast shall be taken from or discharged, as the case may be. Section 36. Firearms, care and use. Care should be exercised in the use of firearms. The unnecessary display of firearms is prohibited. An employee should remember that the law will hold him personally responsible for the results of the use of firearms by him. A weapon should not be drawn or used except in self-defense or to prevent the commission of a felony. While it is not intended that an officer or employee should jeopardize his own life or the life of an associate when danger threatens, it is intended that extreme caution and cool deliberation control his actions. All sidearms must be holstered and properly carried on official duty. Section 37. Instructions relative to discharging, withdrawal and loading of empty containers. Section 38. Instructions relative to the withdrawal of shutout containerized export. Section 39. Shifting of cargoes. shipping agent shall submit a written request for shifting of cargoes to the Office of the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 40. Devanning, stripping and stuffing. Consignee shall submit a written request for devanning, stripping and stuffing to the Office of the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 41. Direct-to-truck transfer. For direct transfer of container/cargo from vessel to truck, consignee/customs broker shall submit a written request to the Office of the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or equivalent office, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 42. Overtime permit. All requests for overtime work by Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office, personnel other than those regular activities mentioned in this manual shall be recommended by the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office, and approved by the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 43. Discharging of vessel sludge. All requests for discharging of vessel sludge shall be recommended by the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office, and approved by the Deputy Collector for Operations. Sample of sludge shall be taken by the Customs Examiner from Formal Entry Division, or its equivalent office, for examination purposes. Section 44. Bunkering permit. All requests for vessel bunkering/refueling shall be recommended for approval by the Chief, Piers and Inspection Division, or its equivalent office, to the Chief, Port Operations Service, OAK. Section 45. Leisure/racing yacht. The boarding formalities shall as far as practicable apply to leisure crafts, yachts, foreign fishing vessels and local fishing vessels from abroad. This provision shall include all vessels arriving in the country that are participants of regattas or similar competitions. Now let's go to the harbor regulations related to customs. A vessel entering port. 1. All vessels entering any port, of entry or coastwise, in the Philippines shall show their colors and signal their official numbers or letters, and such signals shall be kept flying till the vessel is boarded by the proper officials. All vessels within 2 miles before arriving at designated quarantine anchorage shall display their aforementioned signals. 2. When mail is to be discharged, the vessel shall inform the port authorities by the prescribed signal at the earliest opportunity. B. Flag signals or calls. 1. At the Philippine ports of entry, signals will be responded to and from the customs house or pilot's signal tower. 2. The following signals or calls shall be used in all Philippine ports of entry. See quarantine requirements. Deaths, illness or accidents, involving physical to any person on board a vessel in a harbor, shall be at once reported to the Collector of Customs and the quarantine officer. D. Repair/dry docking of vessels. No repairs except minor ones shall be allowed on carry vessel in a port without the permission of the Collector of Customs or the Deputy Collector for Operations, as well as its transfer to designated place of dry docking, and shall be subject to continuous underguarding until final clearance. E. Sunken vessel. Whenever the navigation of any harbor or navigable river tributary thereto shall be obstructed by any sunken vessel, boat, watercraft or other similar obstruction has existed for a period longer than 30 days, or whenever abandonment can be established in a less space of time, the sunken vessel, boat, watercraft, or other obstruction, may be broken up, removed, sold, or other obstruction, may be broken up, removed, sold, or otherwise disposed of by the Collector of Customs, in his discretion, at the expenses of the owner, provided, however, that if navigation of a waterway is prevented or seriously endangered by any obstruction, the Collector of Customs may cause its removal immediately and before the expiration of 30 days at the expense of the owner thereof. F. Lighters, tugs and other watercraft. Lighters shall not be tied nor removed from alongside a vessel without permission of the customs inspector on board such vessel. G. Police authority performed by customs officers. 1. Custom officers have the power to arrest within harbor limits regulations and persons committing crimes or breaches of the peace. Such arrest shall be reported without delay to their superior officer. 2. Any person who assaults, resists, opposes or interferes in any manner with a customs officer in the discharge of his duty shall be liable and subject to the penalties prescribed by law. H. Rat guards. When any vessel either of foreign or Philippines registry, is at any dock, pier, wharf, quay or bulkhead, such vessel shall take proper precautions to prevent the passage of rodents to or from the vessel. I. Other special anchorages. Likewise all other boats and watercrafts are prohibited to anchor or to linger around any vessel whether moored at a pier or anchored in the harbor at a distance of less than 50 meters from said vessel unless especially authorized by the Collector of Customs. J. Specific regulation. 1. No empty lighters or carriers shall lie at night alongside a Philippine government pier or alongside a vessel moored thereto, nor shall empty lighters or carriers be attached to such pier or vessel by cables or ropes or attached to loaded or partly loaded carriers which may be alongside or fastened to such pier or vessel. 2. Empty lighters or carriers alongside or attached to such pier or vessel during daytime shall be removed therefrom before nightfall. 3. The provisions contained in paragraph 1 and 2 above hereof shall not apply to carriers partially laden with import or export cargo or to empty carriers which may have been prepared or which are preparing to receive cargo from a pier or vessel, when delivery from a pier or discharge of a vessel during nighttime has been duly authorized. 4. Any vessel or other watercraft in the Philippine harbor shall, when a case of sickness occurs on board, IRP immediately hoist the regulation quarantine flag, yellow, and keep the same flying until boarded and passed upon by an inspector of the Quarantine Bureau. The flag shall be of sufficient size and so placed as to be plainly visible. That is all from my presentation. I hope you learned something from this. Thank you so much and see you again.